Tom Sturridge he feels like he's a million years old. Like he just encapsulates
Yeah, he does.
being someone who's been there for so long. And I guess you guys feel it too. He just really does a great job. And a lot of the visuals of the dream is straight out of the book, like captured really, really, really well.
Hello and welcome to the movie podcast review of The Sandman. My name is Daniel. I'm one of your hosts today, and joining alongside me today are my dreams and nightmares. Shahbaz?
All right, man. Which one am I? I gotta know.
He said it in order. You know it.
Did he say it in order?
He said it in order.
Did he though? We'll have to find out.
I
Stay
did.
tuned.
I did.
Are you from Pan's Labyrinth? Is that what you are, Anthony?
I'm trying to make the Corinthian eyes. But I don't have
the Corinthian eyes.
I got you.
I get it.
So I have Shahbaz and Anthony here with me. And for the audio listeners, Anthony was putting his hands up, which we expect to be like a Pan's Labyrinth thing, where it's like the eyes on the hands. But no, he was trying to make like mouths on his eyes. So I just want to make that clear. Hello to both of you. Anthony, how are you?
I'm doing well. I am your worst nightmare. I can say that.
There you go. Yeah, you can. I knew you had it in the chamber, so I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to introduce Shay as the dream and Anthony as the nightmare. You also have the blonde hair, which reminds me of Corinthian in this series, so it works out.
Thank you. I don't mind being a nightmare. I don't like.
No,
nightmares are great.
you need nightmares. As we learn in the show, nightmares make you appreciate the things that you do have.
How do you know how to fear if you don't have a nightmare? Right.
There you go. These are the questions that the show made me think about while watching the 10 episodes of it. How are you guys doing today, though? Shay, I want you to tell us, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Today we're back at it again. We're recording a lot of different things. I did the first 2 reviews standing, and you know me, I love to stand. But for this review, for our folks over on YouTube, I'm sitting. For the folks listening to the audio version, they had no idea if I was sitting or standing, so they're like, none of this information is relevant to me. I am currently sitting, driving, listening to you talk, Shay.
Right.
But no, I'm doing great, man. Just doing great. My arm's a little hurting. I was at the gym or the Gaiman yesterday.
Yes.
and I did my arms, so they're a little sore.
Listen, we are training currently right now
for TIFF.
I think for TIFF. So Shay and I and Anthony have been working out a lot more, just so we could sit down and watch a lot of movies come September. I think that's
the thing. I heard that we have to lift up our chairs and bring your own chairs to TIFF this year. So
you do, and we do have to travel on the Gardner with them into Toronto.
We have to run in, no car.
We have to run in with
the
them,
chair on our back.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, well, good to
It's
know.
the new protocols for this year
yeah.
that TIFF is doing. Bring your own chairs.
BYOC. Okay, I forgot about that.
BYOC, yeah. So, yeah, and I mean, let's just talk right about it, right out the gate. We are going to be at TIFF this year. The 3 of us have been accredited to be at the festival. We are very excited to be there. We love the Toronto International Film Festival. There are some really big films that are going to be premiering there and going to be playing there over the 2 weeks that TIFF is running in September. So look forward to all of our coverage and more. We'll be sharing a lot more details with you very soon. And then obviously come September, we'll have a lot of reviews and hopefully interviews coming your way. So stay tuned for all of that. But as always, you can catch a brand new episode of the Movie Podcast every single Monday. And watch out throughout the week for our review episodes and interviews on all the latest movies and series. Make sure you're following us at The Movie Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Letterboxd. And don't forget to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Join our Discord and write into the show at hello@TheMoviePodcast.ca. You can also follow us on YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube right now. Hello there. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think of this very show. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And I did want to say, Shay, please let us know. We just hit a big milestone on Apple Podcasts, and I want to keep telling the world what we just did.
I think we should keep telling the world no matter what, because this is a huge thing for us. This is something that we've been wanting for a while, and we've been badgering people about it. And respectfully, all of Canada has turned up and given us over 200 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. That's just Canada only. So we're at 214 in Canada. I have no idea how many in the States, and then we have a lot more on Spotify. I don't know. Does Spotify differentiate between Canada and the US, or is it just all together?
It's a great question, Shahbaz. I was trying to find the answer to it, and if you're listening to this or if you're watching this, please let us know if there's a difference between the Spotify store between countries, the Spotify app between countries, because I'm seeing about 140 5-star reviews on Spotify.
Insane.
And I'm not too sure if that's encompassing Canada and US or North America or how it's dividing that. But what an accomplishment for us. I mean, that's huge for us. It's
Absolutely
massive.
insane. I want to thank everybody for taking the time. And Daniel, you mentioned in one of our last episodes, that to listen to the show is very low commitment in the sense that all you got to do is you got to hit play and just listen to wherever you are. But to go that extra mile and give us that 5-star review is sometimes a thing that most people don't want to do. And I really appreciate everyone that went and took that time, scrolled, hit 5 stars, even if you left us a comment, because we love reading comments out. I love making those little videos about people's comments as well. It's great. And
yeah, a lot of
fun. Guys are the fuel. You're the reason why we keep doing this. So really appreciate everybody who has given us the love and support.
It's true. I mean, this is, we're doing this for you. We have an audience, we have a following, we have, love to do what we're doing. We would do this even if one person was listening, but luckily it's a lot more than just one person listening. So we get to keep doing this and keep to get to have these great experiences and interviews and all of this fun stuff. And just for this very show that we're talking about, we got to do some interviews for it. So if you're looking to learn more about Sandman, if you want to hear more about the show that we're about to talk about, you could check out our interview with Boyd Holbrook and Vanesu Samunyai, who are characters in the show. They play the Corinthian and Rose Walker. And you could hear our interview with them, hear us talk to them, see us talk to them on YouTube, right here on YouTube or on the Apple Podcast app or wherever you're listening to us. We're having these opportunities because of you listening to this right now. So thank you so much for doing that. I did want to let you know that we do have lots of reviews out now that you can listen to, including our review of Bullet Train. You could catch that review out now. Our review of Prey, which is out today on Disney Plus here in Canada, on Hulu in the States. So there is lots to watch this weekend too, and it's really great that we get to, we're in a time right now where you could go to the theaters and watch stuff. You could go at home and be at home and watch things, and it's never ending what you could watch. But what we really want to make sure you do is listen to all of our episodes on everything that we've released, including our review of Nope, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, DC League of Super Pets, which if you're, if you have cable or if you have social media, we've been featured all over that ad campaign, which is amazing for us. Again, it's just one of those things that is so surreal to see happen. And whenever you see the movie podcast pop up on a commercial or on social media or on Dwayne The Rock Johnson Instagram and Twitter, it's pretty amazing. So not something we take for granted. So thank you. The show we're talking about today, though, is The Sandman. This show has had a very long road to release. In the past, Joseph Gordon-Levitt was attached to it. It was going to be a film. And this is based on the Sandman, comic books, the DC comic books from Neil Gaiman, Sam Keith, and Mike Dringenberg from, oh my God, the 80s and 90s, right? That these stories were coming out, right? And now they're finally here. It is a 10-episode Netflix series. This is the first season of the show. They're 1 hour long each. And this show has a pretty stacked cast. And I'm going to read all the names out right now. Apologize to any of the names that I mispronounced. Then we're going to get to our thoughts on the show and obviously our synopsis. So this show stars Tom Sturridge, Boyd Holbrook, Patton Oswalt, Vivienne Acheampong, Gwendoline Christie, Charles Dance, Jenna Coleman, David Thewlis, Stephen Fry, Kirby Howell-Baptiste, Mason Alexander Park, Donna Preston, Vanesu Samunyai, John Cameron Mitchell, Asim Chaudhry, Sanjeev Bhaskar, Jolie Richardson, Niamh Walsh, Sandra James Young, Razane Jamal, and Mark Hamill. And like I said, the first 10 episodes of the show are available now on Netflix everywhere. And I want to say thank you to our friends at Netflix Canada for sending us the show for review and, of course, connecting us with Boyd and Vanesu for interview. Shay is going to tell you what The Sandman is all about.
There is another world that waits for all of us when we close our eyes and sleep. A place called the Dreaming, where the Sandman, master of dream, gives shape to all of our deepest fears and fantasies. But when Dream is unexpectedly captured and held prisoner for a century, his absence sets off a series of events that will change both the dreaming and waking worlds forever. To restore order, Dream must journey across different worlds and timelines to mend the mistakes he's made during his vast existence, revisiting old friends and foes and meeting new entities, both cosmic and human, along the way.
Thank you very, very much for that, Shahbaz. Anthony, please start us off with your first reaction to the show, and we'd love to know your background, if you have any, with the Sandman character and novel series.
Well, I know growing up, I knew of Sandman being part of the DC universe, and uh, his books were part of the, that DC Vertical, which was the darker, more mature type of style of writing. And Neil Gaiman was the writer. And I remember reading volume one, but never really getting into the character. And I think it was just at that time I was not ready for that type of story, but I really enjoyed this series. I think Neil Gaiman has worked really hard to get um, this character on screen for so long, and Netflix was that harbinger for this show, and it did a really fantastic job. It's an interesting show because it's 10 episodes, and I'm gonna say like the first five or probably first six are very strong, but like the last couple of episodes are maybe the weakest. And usually it's the other way around, where the it starts off really slow but grows into something bigger at the end. But this show really starts off with a bang, where you kind of are introduced to this idea of Morpheus or dream being captured, and a world without dreaming, and learning about the biblical elements to his world and the people who were affected by it. And it just an interesting story, because a lot of these stories can be bottle stories. Some of these stories are grow into very large um, arcs, and then that ending, which for me was like, I'm looking forward to season two. uh I can't wait. Like, it was a really great ending to summarize this first season. Tom Sturridge is he feels like he's a million years old. Like, he just encapsulates
Yeah, he
being
does.
someone who's been there for so long. And I guess you guys feel it too. He just really does a great job, and a lot of the visuals of the dream is straight out of the book, like captured really, really, really well. And you are introduced to a lot of his brothers and sisters, which is like death and desire and despair. And you even get a glimpse of Lucifer. And there's so many cool things about the story. And then you also are introduced to the Constantine. And I know I think in English they say Constantine, we say Constantine.
Yeah.
A different version of Constantine or Constantine, which is really cool. I think when you have Neil Gaiman on this show, who's willing to change the story to be a little bit more inclusive and showcase diversity, and even say, like, you know what, at the time I actually wanted this character to be a female, or I wanted this character to be black. I think that's a really fantastic job of just being open to changing your story and being more
Right.
relevant now. But everyone in this series does a really fantastic job. I did think the last three episodes were the weakest, especially when we get into the arc of Rose Walker and just the
And the
vortex.
vortex and all of that.
I
Yeah.
think for a show like this, and just because I remember reading the comic and seeing, man, this is such a gritty, un un we'll say an art style that's not seen a lot. It just felt more the rougher the art was, the better it was, in a sense. And I just
Right.
felt like this show was a little bit too clean, and I wish it was a little bit more rugged in the sense of the characters that were being brought into. Even, for instance, the
Right.
Corinthian. This guy's a nightmare, but you do have some sympathy for his character. But it just felt like they gave him a TV style personality and never felt like he was really a nightmare. I expected him to be scary as hell, but again, the narrative of the book and the TV series might be very similar. I just expecting a little bit more scariness to a world
Sure.
that's involving nightmares and dreams and
Yeah.
Lucifer and hell. But overall, I think it's a fantastic series, and I think every year, if they continue with it, it'll just get better and better. I think Netflix will pump in more money for more production, and it showcases that.
I'm right there with you, Anthony. I think, when you look at the art from the comic books, there are scenes that look almost like scribbles, right? Where, because there's like that grit to it, and it's not going to always translate well to the screen, but I think they did a good job. And I think this is a Netflix adaptation done right, where Netflix in the past, and to this day, I think has struggled getting things right when you're adapting either an anime or adapting a manga or adapting a comic book. It hasn't always landed. And you know what? Maybe the show won't land for everybody, but for me, who I knew who the Sandman was. I never really got into the dark or mystical side of the DC comic books. I was more on the superhero side with Marvel and DC. I was really captivated by the show, and I was just really engrossed of what was happening. And I think Tom Sturridge, who is just very stoic and just very just monotone, but also just like commanding. Like whenever he was on screen, he had a presence to him, which I really liked. And I think that's what really drew me in. And there's some really notable episodes of the show. And obviously, the show's out now. Well, very light spoilers. I think the episode that deals with death, I think, is a standout episode for me. Just because of what we look at and what we kind of hear about when we get to Lucifer, and we kind of deal with Sandman and Lucifer. That's another very standout episode for me. When you have 10 episodes, that's a long time to tell a story. I think the show would have benefited from maybe saving some plot lines for the next season, and that includes the Rose Walker storyline, who I like Rose Walker, but I wish that there was maybe a bit more development with them. And because we got development in this season, it took away from uh Morpheus's or Sandman's story. So you kind of were like, wait, but where's he at? What's he doing right now? You kind of missed that. So I think pacing wise, that's where the show struggles a little bit with it being 10 episodes. And it's funny, here we are talking, like, here I am talking about something struggling with 10 episodes, where for the longest time shows had to be 20 something episodes, or even recently with Marvel shows, they've been 6 episodes. So I think maybe 7 to 8 episodes would have been a really good sweet spot for this season, and then to expand later on in seasons to come. Hopefully we'll get multiple seasons of the show. Shay, where are you at with the Sandman?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there, Daniel, and Anthony as well. But like, I think this show would have benefited from a bit more of a condensed episode run time as well. Like, bringing it down to 7 episodes, I think would have been really sweet. There are points in the show where I kind of felt like it was dragging a bit, and it's because they wanted to fill in as much of a story as they could. And sometimes it felt like it was too much that was happening. But I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed what it was. The show had this very British quality to it. Like, it felt like I was watching something that would have been on BBC. It just, so much about it was right there for me, and I enjoyed all the performances. I do think that this is something that if you are a fan of the series of the comics, you're probably gonna enjoy this a lot more. I think going in blind, it's gonna be very, no pun intended, by the way, it's gonna be very just hard to maybe digest some of the information and lore that you're kind of being thrown, because it really expands upon what you think a dream is or what a nightmare is, and it just takes it to a place that we've never seen before. The performances are fantastic, the visuals are great. I was very captivated by what the story was telling us, and it takes so many elements from religion that we have read upon, and just kind of broadens that horizon a lot more. But I had a good time with it, but again, I agree, this could have been condensed a little bit more.
Yeah. And I think that's, that's the thing, that's the nature of the beast when you're adapting such a beloved, series. And, this is the first time we're getting it in the visual medium, but, we recently just had the podcast series as well too, that had a lot of, big names attached to it, and for Neil Gaiman to finally be like, yes, this is what I want to sign my name to and be part of. I think that's what makes the show stronger in its output. I think I'm really curious to see what the reaction to the show is going to be, because I'm so used to whenever a Netflix series comes out, it's compared to, like, Death Note is always the big one that comes to mind, where people are like, here's the panel, or here's the manga, and then here's what they did in the show. I think there'll be moments of this in the show, but I think all the changes in the adaptations, again, this isn't an adaptation. This is not a one-for-one making of the book. The book already exists for that, right? This is what an adaptation looks like. I cannot speak anymore. This is what that looks like, and I think they did a great job with it. And I really want to shout out the performances of Vivienne Acheampong, who I thought was phenomenal as Lucien, and Kirby Howell-Baptiste, not just because she has a very similar last name to me, but also because she is so incredible as Death in this. And when you think of Death and you're personifying this idea or this occurrence in life. And I think she approaches it with such beauty and such just charisma, and like I literally was just so just captivated by it. And I think I keep using that word for when I talk about the show. I was just captivated by it. And I think that episode is one that I will go back and rewatch this season because it just really resonated with me.
Yeah, usually when you think of death, you think of like the Grim Reaper, the big, what is it, the sword, the scathe thing that they carry, and so
Yeah.
like they don't really care about the person. But like this death, and she says it in one of her lines. She's like, "I'm the last thing people will see, so I want to make sure I smile to take them wherever they have to go." Because that
Right.
it just makes it more comforting for them to let go and kind of pass away. And I think that just says a lot about Neil Gaiman and how he interprets a lot of these ideas like desire and despair and dreaming. Is just you're taking these elements that we take for granted every day in a sense, and we're adding it to, we'll say, a person or a physical being, and making it into in telling a story from that. And I think that's fantastic. I think Neil Gaiman being part of this show and being producer and watching it all happen, I think that's super important for this show to show
Right.
success. I think anyone who's adapting um, some sort of comic book or story or novel, it's always nice to see that the original person's there, because they can always do
Yeah.
it justice. Like you can't really say, well, Neil Gaiman doesn't know about Sandman, because he wrote the thing. He wrote it 30 years ago, and he's been doing it for so long. It's like his most known thing for DC Comics.
Right.
So it's nice to have him there, and I hopefully he's part of the second and third and fourth and whatever seasons they go on. But yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, and I think that's a great spot for us to end it on. When you have the original creators of something involved, it doesn't always happen, but when it does, and in this case, I think it's a good thing. So hopefully we'll see, and hopefully this will be a show that will get another season. We'll hopefully go past 3 seasons, because has been the magic number for Netflix in the past. So we'll see what happens from there. Let's get to our final recommendations. Shay, I'm going to get you to start us off.
Yeah, I think if you're looking forward to this, you've been a fan of the comics, this is a watch it. For anybody else who maybe isn't familiar with this, I'd say add to your queue and kind of maybe test out an episode here. I mean, you're already paying for it. You're on Netflix, so try out an episode. If episode 1 hooks you, which it did for me, then continue forward and you may find that enjoyment in it. But yeah, watch it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think this is the show that you may see a trailer for and you'd be like, you know what, I'm not into this fantasy. I'm not into this lore. But give episode 1 a shot, because I think once you start watching this episode, like I said throughout, I think it may captivate you, and I think you may be, I think you may be caught by it and you want to continue. So, this also, episode 1 also does something that was really interesting that I was talking to you about, Anthony, that it ends with a trailer for what else to expect this season. I thought that was a really interesting thing that we don't normally see, but it was also like, oh shit, I want to get to that. How do we get to that? So I think that it was a clever way of keeping me hooked into it.
It's a very like European or British thing to do, to like set up the
Yes.
season. I've seen it a lot in like BBC shows. Like this is what's to expect
Right.
in the next couple of episodes, which I like. It just kind of like sums it up and builds that hype to continue watching, even though it's going to all be there on day one. But for me, again, I think I'm in the same boat as you guys. I love the dream world. I love the biblical aspects of it. I love Sandman itself and the character and what it represents. And I think a lot of people, especially this generation, is going to really get hyped or get in. They're going to love the lore because of what he brings. And I think there's so many, like with Stranger Things, The Witcher, and even Umbrella Academy. There's a huge fan base with Netflix stuff that, because so many people have signed up for it, I think there's going to be a huge watch numbers from this series, and I think a lot of people will enjoy it.
Yeah, that's exactly it, and I think that's a great spot for us to end it on. Check it out, give it a shot, because I think even for myself, this wasn't something that I think would have gotten its hooks into me so fast and so deep, and it did, and it really did catch me. And I was like, you know what, I really enjoyed my time with these 10 episodes. And as the weeks come by on the movie podcast, we may talk a little bit more about spoilers in the show, so look forward to that and look forward to more. And I really hope that we get more Sandman, because I think Out of all the adaptations that, we've seen from Netflix, this is them doing it right, and I want to see more of it. Thank you so much for listening to our review of The Sandman. As always, you can catch a brand new episode of the Movie Podcast every single Monday. And watch out throughout the week for our review episodes and our interviews on all the latest movies and series. Make sure you follow us at The Movie Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Letterboxd. And don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, join our Discord, and write into the show at hello@TheMoviePodcast.ca. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube and check out our show notes for all of those links and more. That was This Time with the Movie Podcast, and we'll see you next.